Hi, I'm Julie with Tree of Life Yoga and Wellness. Today I'll be demonstrating how to do Vajrasana, also called Thunderbolt pose or diamond pose. Before we get into the pose, we'll be doing some warm-up activities for the ankles and the feet and the calves. And you'll also need to have a chair, a mat, perhaps 2 blankets, and a block. So those will be some good things to show some different modifications in the pose. All right, so let's begin with some ankle rolls. So we'll start either foot, rolling the ankle, getting a full range of motion. You can imagine your foot going around a clock face, hitting all the numbers. And take it in the opposite direction. And flex the foot, toes coming back toward the head, and spread the toes apart. Warm up the feet. This gets a little easier with practice. And now press through the ball of the foot. Your toes are still spreading. Reach through the toes and point. And let's do that once again. Flex, spread. Press through the ball of the foot, or I like to call this Barbie toes, like the Barbie doll, the way her foot looks. And reach and point. And release that foot down, other side. Circles, warming up the ankle, getting any little kinks out of there. And opposite direction. And now flex the foot, spread the toes apart, warming the calves too. Press through the ball of the foot, lengthening through the top of the foot, spreading the toes, reach and point through the toes, and again flex, spread. Press through your Barbie toes. Reach and point with the toes, and release. Now scooch forward in your chair. We have our feet planted. Raise the toes on one foot and the heel on the other foot. And then switch. We'll do a little bit of brain work here too, warming the ankles, the feet, the toes, the calves. Really pressing into the ball of the foot, lifting the heels, lifting the toes. A few times, and release. And now take one foot, bring the top of the foot down. Press gently into the top of the foot. You can let your weight come forward a little bit more. So we're pressing gently. We don't want any pain here, but just a gentle stretch through the top of the foot and the ankle. And release. Other side. Gently stretching. And you don't want to let the ankle press out to the side. You want to keep a nice straight alignment of the foot. And release. Let's come to a stand now. I'm going to turn my chair and come to stand behind my chair. And we'll be doing some toe and heel raises to warm up the feet and ankles a little more. Inhale, lift the heels high. Exhale, rock back, lift the toes. A couple times. Inhale, press and lift. Exhale. Inhale. So here too, you don't want the ankles to press out to the side. Let's do one more. And release. Now I'll move my chair out of the way. And we'll come down onto all fours in table position. Tuck the toes under. I'm going to work the feet a little bit more. And I'm going to sit my weight back into the heels. So walk my hands back. And I like to reach back and just get the pinky toes involved here, because sometimes they're not really tucked under very much. Maybe that fourth toe too. So reach back and check that they're going to be doing some of the work too. You can keep some of your weight forward if this feels pretty intense in the feet, or maybe you're able to let your weight settle back into the feet even more. So that will just depend on you and how that feels for you. So we'll stay for a few more breaths. Find a good spot where you can stay for a little bit. Working the feet and the toes. And then release. So now we'll bring the tops of the feet down. And I'll demonstrate Vajrasana first without the props, and then I'll show you how you can use the props as support in the pose. So we'll bring the thighs and the knees together, bring the feet together, and you'll sit your weight back right onto the heels, sitting with a nice straight back. Now this may not be possible for you, may not be comfortable at all, so let me show you how we can modify it to make it an accessible pose. So you may like to have a little blanket cushion under the knees, and maybe you don't have the flexibility in the ankles for your feet to lie flat like this. So here's a great way to modify. So you can use your blanket. I just have a yoga blanket here in this shape, size, and then I'm just going to roll it up from the end. So you can make your roll as small or as big as you want. So the bigger the roll, the more support you're going to have for your ankles. So I'm going to show you first how you can also have this part of the blanket to support your knees if you like that little bit of cushion. So now I'll just come forward onto the blanket. Right at this juncture, my ankle, my foot, where you may not have the flexibility yet, is right where you can have that blanket roll. And you want to try to keep the knees together, but if it feels a little better to have them separated a little bit, you can do that. Now perhaps this feels like a little bit of a strain in the knees to be this deeply bent. You can have another blanket. I have another blanket rolled up here that I'm going to place back behind my knees, and then I can sit back onto that, and that gives a little bit of support. You might also find that a block is helpful. Maybe to have the block to sit here, maybe at this position, maybe a little higher, maybe like this, with the block sitting on the heels. That might make the pose more comfortable for you. And just let the hands rest, sitting up nice and straight. This pose has many wonderful benefits. The main benefit of this pose that is touted is for digestive issues, or stimulating the digestive system. This is one pose that you can practice right after eating. The majority of yoga poses, it's recommended that you don't do them right after eating, that you practice them on an empty stomach. But this is one that you can do right after eating, and it's helps to support digestion. This pose also helps with knee, ankle, foot flexibility, strength of the legs and the back, improves posture, tones the legs and the pelvic muscles. And it's a good pose to calm and stabilize the mind. This is a nice position to be in for doing a seated meditation or doing some pranayama work, some breath work. And this is a pose that you will build up time in. So as a beginner, you may only want to stay for a minute or two, but as it gets more comfortable and you feel more comfortable coming into the pose, you may be able to stay for much longer. So So let me also show you too this pose from the back, so you see what it looks like, and also a couple other modifications that you can try. You bring the knees together, the feet together, and sit back onto the heels. The shoulders relaxed, the back nice and long. And another way that you can modify the pose is by crossing one foot over the sole of the other foot, like this. And sitting back onto the heels. And if you do try the modification of crossing the feet, you definitely want to do it the other way as well. And if you're like me, you'll find one way with one foot on top that is much more comfortable than the other. So, but you want to try to do both to increase that flexibility of both ankles. Thank you for joining me today for Thunderbolt or Diamond Pose Vajrasana. Namaste.